Patricia had been in the cage the whole time. The basement wasn't just a room anymore. It was the whole world reduced to iron bars and shadows. The cage was wedged into the far corner, a second-hand thing meant for dogs, but it held her neatly enough. Katie had dragged it down one afternoon, panting from the effort, telling her it was just until you eat, as if this was a camp rule and not a sentence. Patricia couldn't remember how many days had passed since then. The food always came with the same aftertaste. Granola bars that weren't quite right, soup that left her body heavy and her head filled with cotton. She would eat, then drift, then wake foggy. Sometimes she woke to the sound of tapes ripping open. Katie crouched over her, changing her like she was a child. Katie's hands were gentle, too gentle, like a nurse practicing bedside manner on a doll. She hummed while she worked, little lullabies and camp songs, words Patricia couldn't quite remember but knew from long ago. Each time she heard them, her stomach turned. Katie whispered things in those moments too, whispers that landed heavy in the dark. See? You're safe. This is forever. Patricia wanted to scream, but her voice was always too heavy, her head too dull, her body too tired. The days melted. They stopped being days. They became drips. She would open her eyes, close them again, drift in and out. And sometimes there was food. Sometimes there was water. Sometimes Katie's voice. Sometimes the sting of humiliation when she felt warmth spread under her and realized the diaper was wet again. She had stopped being surprised. The cage made surprise impossible. But clarity returned when she realized it was the food that did this to her. She stopped eating. Katie didn't notice at first. She thought Patricia was sulking. But after 2 skipped meals, Katie panicked. She crouched outside the cage, eyes wild and pleading, holding a granola bar out like it was proof of love. "You'll die," she said, clutching the bars. "You can't leave me if you're dead." Patricia said nothing. She drank the water. Katie had stopped lacing that after realizing how close death really was. But she spat out every crumb of food when Katie turned her back. Hunger gnawed at her, but hunger was sharper than the fog. Clarity was worth it. She told herself clarity was the only way out. And with clarity came anger. Patricia started kicking the cage. At first it was just small, petulant kicks, little clangs that echoed in the dark like punctuation marks. Katie came running, clutching the bars with white knuckles. "Stop! You'll hurt yourself!" Patricia stared back at her and kicked again. "I said stop!" Katie screamed, slapping her palm against the top of the cage. Patricia's only answer was another slam of her heel. The lock rattled. Katie's face twisted into something between fury and despair. Patricia didn't stop. She kicked every night, timing it for when the house above went silent. Her feet bruised, the skin swelling and purpling, but the sound of the lock straining became music. Proof that she wasn't gone yet. Proof she was still here. One night, with a final furious slam, the lock snapped. It was a small sound, but to Patricia, it was the sound of the world opening. The door swung free with a creak that might as well have been a trumpet blast. She crawled out of the cage, shaking, weak, her shirt clinging to her with sweat, the diaper sagging and humiliating but no longer important. For the first time in what felt like years, she was outside the bars. The basement stairs stretched above her like a mountain. She climbed, one step at a time, teeth gritted, lungs burning, every muscle screaming. The kitchen was empty. The house was silent. Katie must have been asleep. Patricia crossed the tile on shaky legs, her bare feet sticking to the floor with each step. The back door stood there like a miracle. She pushed it open and the night air hit her like cold water. She gasped. She stumbled into the yard, across the grass wet with dew, and into the woods beyond. Branches snapped against her arms. Twigs tore her ankles. She didn't care. Her breath came ragged, louder than the cicadas and the wind. She ran until her legs felt like hollow sticks ready to break beneath her. And then, headlights. 2 police officers stood by a cruiser angled across a dirt path. Their flashlights cut through the dark. Patricia lurched toward them, her voice cracking. "Please," she rasped. Take me away from her. She collapsed into their arms, and they caught her before she hit the ground. When Patricia woke, it was to clean sheets, fluorescent lights, the antiseptic smell of a hospital. Monitors beeped like polite metronomes. No mildew, no humming, no cage. For the first time in weeks, she was safe. But safety came with betrayals. Twice in that first night, she soaked the bed. The nurses were kind. Too kind. They didn't make her feel worse, but they didn't make her feel better either. They left a package of pull-ups by her table. "Just until you recover," one of them said softly. Patricia pulled one on, cheeks hot, and told herself it was temporary. But the sound, the rustle, the echo of captivity told her otherwise. She stayed 2 weeks in the hospital, eating, drinking, walking the halls, relearning how to be a person instead of a prisoner. She grew stronger, but not whole. Meanwhile, Katie was found hours after Patricia's escape. They discovered her rocking on the basement floor, still humming, still smiling at nothing. In court, she sat at the table with papers scattered in front of her, fidgeting, laughing at questions, rambling about granola bars and bracelets and promises made at 12 years old. She talked about forever as if it were a contract no one could break. The judge didn't deliberate long. Katie wasn't fit for prison. The psychiatric hospital became her new basement. There, she refused to eat unless the food was safe, refused to use the bathroom like everyone else, demanded diapers, and whispered into the sterile air. "Best friends forever." She said it. She promised. Patricia went home. Renee visited with flowers. Dawn fixed the faucet. Neighbors came by with casseroles sweating under foil. Life tried to restart itself, like a machine with old gears that didn't quite catch. Patricia thanked everyone. She smiled when she had to. But at night she still listened for the cage. Every creak of the house sounded like a lock. Every whisper of wind outside sounded like Katie saying, "Just a little longer." She slid a pull-up on before bed, pressed the waistband tight, and lay there staring at the ceiling. Some things you don't unlearn. Some promises echo long after the door swings open, and sometimes forever means exactly what it says.